Joining us now, Congressman Michael Waltz. Congressman, do you think the president should just clarify those remarks today and make it easier on you guys?
Well, let me be clear, Brian. I reject white supremacy right off the bat. That's it. He was asked that by Chris Wallace. He said yes. Look, if he has to make it clear, make it clear. But let's move on. I think you're right. This is a total distraction. I think the media and the Biden campaign wants it to be a distraction. But from my perspective, I think the rejection needs to be across the board. And what I liked about the president's answer that you just played was both sides need to reject extremists on all sides. And, not to pivot here to the Biden campaign, but I thought his lack of rejection of Antifa, who is actually out on the streets causing violence as we speak, was also notable. But of course, the media doesn't want to focus on that.
Yeah, in fact, here's the president yesterday.
I think the president rejects it.
Yeah.
And let's let law enforcement do its work, which the Biden campaign also wouldn't fully emphasize, and the vice president wouldn't really even say. Law enforcement needs to do their job, and our elected officials in the cities in particular need to support them in doing so. And a lot of liberal DAs are running these kind of catch and release programs that's making it impossible for our police officers to do their job.
Oh, absolutely. New York led the charge there. It's sickening. But Congressman, the president did get a jujitsu on him somehow because Antifa is the problem. Riots are the problem. These groups that came in, they come in late. After 100-plus days in Portland, the group pushed back because cops weren't allowed to push forward. Here's the president, cut 6.
Antifa is a real problem because the problem is on the left. And Biden refuses to talk about it. He refuses to issue the words law and order. You saw that last night when he choked up. He can't say the words because he'll lose the rest of the left. So he's got to condemn Antifa. Antifa is a very bad group.
But, Biden was right. Christopher Wray did say Antifa is an ideology, which I don't get.
Yeah, I don't get that either. If they're loosely organized, they're still organized. If you have localized cells burning down businesses, looting, rioting, and causing anarchy, fine. If it doesn't have a single leader, there are loose kind of confederation groups all over the world. That doesn't make them any less of a threat. So I don't get Chris Wray on all kinds of issues. We could spend another hour on that, but I don't get him on this either. And I have sent a letter to Attorney General Barr really wanting to get behind the funding. Brian, as a Green Beret, I've dealt with these kind of insurgent groups all over the world, and there's too much commonality and too much organization in terms of their training, their tactics, their procedures, how they communicate, how they're funded. I think the FBI director is wrong in that account. I don't get it. But they are the ones out in the streets. Meanwhile, the president has labeled the KKK as a terrorist organization. He's come back around and said he rejects these extremist groups, but I'm focused on the one that is actually hurting Americans as we speak. Look, there's going to be a bill on the floor today, on the floor of the House of Representatives, condemning QAnon and some of these other groups, but they refuse. The Democrats that I've been talking to refuse to put Antifa in there. And I just don't understand it. We need to all, as elected leaders, be rejecting all of these extremist groups and supporting law enforcement, backing the blue, and doing their job.
I hear you, Congressman, 100%, especially when we watch these operations. We see the radios in their ears. We see the pallets of bricks being dropped off. We see cars being pulled up and bats being pulled out. We see central locations where people show up to the back of U-Hauls. We know these people are from out of town. We know when they get debriefed, they are saying that they're part of Antifa. They have that same look, 20-somethings, wiry, and they show up. They're not there for black and white issues, and I'm talking about race black and white issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, follow the money. I want to know who is funding. I don't buy, Brian, that a bunch of Starbucks baristas who, got a degree in basket weaving are having this level of organization and this level of effectiveness from their perspective in causing anarchy and chaos in the streets. And I think the DOJ and the FBI need to get to the bottom of it, need to go after it and shut it down.
All right, so Congressman, you have so many different things we could talk about, but the one thing you want to talk about is this House-China task force. You released a detailed policy blueprint to counter the growing global threat of China everywhere we go, especially after this virus. They're trying to capitalize on the carnage they cost the world.
Yeah, right. It's like the arsonist profiting off the fire that they started. Look, I think we need a wake-up call in this country. Much like we had with the Soviet Union in the late 40s and early 50s on the threat that we face and the infiltration that has occurred in the United States. And don't take this from us or the China Task Force. Read President Xi, Chairman Xi, the leader of the Chinese Communist Party's own words that they want to supplant the American dream with the China dream, a new world order where China calls the shots and we don't. And they're doing it by stealing their way to the top through cyber theft, through our universities, and through buying up key American technologies, by buying the businesses that are now bankrupt in large part because of COVID. What I like about this task force is that it went from the financial sector to labor to visas with the 400,000 students that are coming in, the military. What was sad, Brian, is that it was bipartisan until the day before we launched, and Pelosi pulled the Democrats from it. This should not be a political issue. This is an American issue, and this is about our values versus theirs.
Yeah, that's sickening. But let's talk about something positive, I think, people listening right now, and that is the latest rescue package. Mnuchin and Pelosi have been meeting regularly. The president wants to get something done. We have another 840,000 jobs lost. Consumer spending went up just 1%. So I'm just wondering, do you want to see a rescue package, and what should our audience know about one that could be coming?
I want to see a rescue package that keeps people on business payrolls, that gives small businesses another bite of the apple at PPP and gives them liability. However, Brian, one thing we need to keep repeating, there are hundreds of billions of dollars still sitting out there unspent from the last rescue package. We need a full accounting. We need the ability to shift those monies and spend them where they're needed. And so for the Democrats to throw, another $3.5 trillion of our grandkids' money after this problem, when we still haven't spent the monies we've already appropriated, is something that I'm really focused on.
So I know some people have written me directly because I said this on television, but the $600 that's in this package as I read it worries me, because I'm thinking of the business owner that's having trouble getting his waiters back and his cooks back because Americans who have been abused by this China virus are saying, I'm getting more to stay at home. I've already been tortured by this and lost my livelihood, relationships. I haven't been going out to dinner. So if you're paying people more, they're not going back to work. So I don't think you can give in on the $600 in addition to the unemployment you're already getting.
Right. So that's in addition. Remember, that $600 isn't just a magic number. That's the $15 an hour minimum wage that Democrats have been pushing for on top of the state unemployment. So you're absolutely right. I'm hearing from business owners all day long. They can't pull hotel workers, landscapers, restaurants. They can't get their folks back. If that stays in place to next spring, which is what the Democrats currently want, I won't vote for it. I mean, we can't have that. It's bad for our economy. It's warping our labor market. And it's terrible for the morale of people in these businesses that are still working. Mm-hmm. You have landscapers out there laying bricks, making less than their former colleagues who are at home. That said, there are people out there, Brian, that are hurting, that we do have to help. We just have to be smart about it. And again, How do we keep people on business payrolls, not unemployment payrolls, needs to be kind of the fundamental approach.
I know you're in our Jacksonville market, but in our Orlando market, WDBO, we know that Disney opened up responsibly, and now they're almost up to full capacity, but they laid off 28,000 people, and I looked into why. It's mostly California. Anaheim won't open. You've already shown you can do it responsibly in Florida. It's basically at this point the same climate, so why can't Disney open up in California? It is governing again.
Yeah. Well, so actually, my district goes from Jacksonville all the way down to Orlando, and you're well said. I mean, you can't say it any better than that. That this is horrible governance. and it is this lockdown mentality that liberal elected leaders have. I mean, we've shown that we can walk or chew gum, and it's the blue-collar workers that Democrats espouse to want to protect, that are being affected most, not only by these lockdowns, but by not being able to get their kids to school, right? If you're a white-collar worker, an accountant or a lawyer, you can work from home, have your kids at school a lot easier than someone who has to be out on a construction site, for example, or working in a theme park. So it's hurting the people in underserved communities the most in this kind of lockdown mentality. We need to protect the most vulnerable until we get a vaccine, and let the rest of the country go back to school and go back to work.
And you guys basically are a
full-blown, and that's what we're doing in Florida.
Yeah, so
right?
Tell me, what is it like? I understand that people walking around without masks in Florida.
Well, look, if you get the virus, right, which is a small percentage of the population, if you're under 55, you have less than a 0.05% chance of getting critically ill. So 99.5%, and this is under 55. And again, we've taken a common sense approach, protect our nursing homes, protect those who have underlying conditions, and with our schools, we give parents options. You can either send kids in full-time, you can do a hybrid option, or you can have a virtual option. Rather than having the government dictate one or the other, let's let families make those choices depending on your own circumstances. And that's the approach we've largely taken across the state.
All right, Congressman, it's going to be an exciting 30-plus days to the final. Have you spoke to the president lately?
I was at a rally with him last week, and we'll have another rally down in Sanford, Florida this Friday, and we'll see him then.
Do you think he thinks? Do you think he thinks he's going to win?
He thinks he's in good shape. He thinks that the polling is drastically undercounting enthusiasm, the enthusiasm factor. And I think that's the case as well. In the last 4 polls I've seen statewide in Florida have him up. And I think we're going to see that play out over the next 30 days, just like we did in 2016.
And a lot has to do with the Hispanic vote. Congressman Michael Waltz, always great to talk to you.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Talk to you soon.
All right.